Welcome to the Building Web3 podcast. I have my good friend Andrew. He is the director of engineering at Base. So, Andrew, before we get too deep into Base, give us a brief introduction into yourself and how you got into this whole Web3 world.
Yeah, thanks, Jax. So I'm Andrew. I lead engineering for Base, and particularly our Base network, our Base R&D, developer tools, and our Base smart wallet. So I got into this whole thing probably as a lot of people did. I got pilled by reading the Ethereum white paper in 2016 or so. At the time, I was working as an infrastructure engineer at Facebook, and just the idea at that time, because it was still kind of theoretical, nothing had really been built on top of Ethereum yet, but the idea was really compelling to me that you could have this sort of decentralized, distributed, permissionless infra for the world. Was just kind of like mind-blowing. And so I kept up to speed with it, and in 2017 decided to leave my job at Facebook and ended up contracting for a year at a few different crypto projects before landing at Coinbase in 2018.
So you land at Coinbase in 2018. So let's kind of bridge the gap on how we get to Base.
Yeah, sure. So funnily enough, so if you know Jesse Pollock, who runs Base, Jesse actually recruited me in the first place in 2018 to come join Coinbase. And so like many folks, I've done a few different tours of duty at Coinbase. So initially I was working as a backend engineer on some of our product APIs, ended up managing that team for a little bit, ended up managing a few different teams over the years, worked on products for a while that were trying to make crypto more usable for people. So worked on the Coinbase crypto debit card, crypto direct deposit, helping folks use crypto in their daily life. But yeah, in 2022, I actually got a moment of time outside of work. We had a child, and so I was on parental leave for a while, and I got to think about, hey, what did I really want to come back and do? I sort of thought back to what was compelling and exciting to me. Why did I get into this space in the first place? And it really was that like Ethereum world computer vision and, helping people just live more free and independently through this technology. And so, extremely good timing. Jesse essentially recruited me again, but this time to join Base. This was when Base was sort of just graduating from a proof of concept that they had sort of trialed and said, hey, this OP stack thing seems pretty powerful. Could we actually use it to build a blockchain and incubate it here? And when they found out they could, they decided, okay, we're going to do this. So I came on just about 2 years ago to help out with engineering and help us get our first testnet out that coming February. It's been a lot of work since then, but been a lot of fun.
Now, most of I'll imagine our audience isn't as well informed as they are, but just in case some new people are coming on board. So talk to us a little bit about Coinbase is a centralized exchange. Why even, move people on chain? What's the value in this?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. And actually, Brian Armstrong published years ago this kind of like Coinbase secret master plan, right? A little bit tongue in cheek. But it kind of lays out, like if you were reading that, you would not have been surprised at all about Base, because it lays out that yes, the exchange, centralized exchange, it's an important step, but it's not the last step, right? The future is bringing the world on chain, is sort of increasing, financial freedom across the world. And we're not going to do that just by running a really good centralized exchange. And so, it was sort of the planets and stars aligning in 2022, where the technology had kind of matured to a point where we could do this using the OP stack, which is developed by Optimism for, it's kind of roll your own roll up. It's a modular framework that lets you build a roll up. And that really reduced the investment that you would have had to have to build a blockchain. And it wasn't the first time that Coinbase evaluated like, hey, should we be building our own blockchain? But it was the first time that actually the sort of like investment thesis really made sense, because you could trial it with not a ton of investment and kind of get it off the ground. So, the strategic rationale for why we would incubate and deploy a layer 2 on Ethereum, basically because Coinbase understands that the world is coming on chain, and if Coinbase wants to have a say in how that world develops and wants to be relevant in that world, then we need to not just wait and see how it turns out, but help bring the world on chain, right? And actively build on chain products, that again increase financial freedom globally. So Base is a way that Coinbase can sort of bring its business on chain. And so that's sort of like the strategic rationale for why deploy a blockchain, why not just use your own, is because this way we could have a lot of assurances and just a lot of control over the platform that we were building on.
Absolutely. And if people are interested in the super chain, they can go back to Benji's episode. But it seems like essentially, hey, you guys saw the OP stack. You're like, okay, things are getting a lot easier to build on chain. Yep. I assume you picked it as well as because there's some interoperability features, or maybe at this time there wasn't as much interoperability.
But the thesis, the superchain thesis, is really compelling, right? It's that like, hey, we know that the future is not a single chain future, right? And the Ethereum scaling roadmap is really about, hey, there's going to be lots of these L2s out there. And what you want is to be able to give users the benefit of that, which is like cheap, abundant, secure block space, but not have all the downsides of having to manage and have your liquidity fragmented across all these different chains. So yeah, the Optimism team has been thinking about this for a long time. Really visionary set of folks, and have been awesome to partner with and sort of like building towards the superchain future.
And then one thing that we talked about, this would probably be, if you can go back to like the Infinex episode, I think this is probably the best explanation of it, but talk to us a little bit about user onboarding, because people that are familiar with the Coinbase app, heck, it's easy to use, but you go into MetaMask, you click the drop down, there's like 1,000 networks, and you're like, what the heck am I doing here? So talk to us about how you guys are making things easy.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that's not the only thing. Of course, there's the fragmentation. There's also the like incredibly scary seed phrase stuff where you're like, oh my God, if I get this wrong, I'm going to like torch all my money. So yeah, we kind of, we look at the high level goal, right, of Base is let's bring the world on chain. Right. Let's bring 1 billion users on chain. Let's bring 1 million developers on chain. And believing that there's a few key technical unlocks we need to be able to solve some of the key impediments that folks have right now when they try and come on chain. So you mentioned like the, litany of chains you'll have to like remember, and where's my thing deployed, and do I have enough ETH on this or that? Yeah, that's a huge problem. The seed phrase issue and just overall wallet security is, arduous to say the least. And also at the time before we deployed Base, gas costs were like a real issue, right? If folks remember, it wasn't that long ago, like 2+ years ago, and you want to do anything on Ethereum, you're like coughing up $70 minimum or something, right? Just to like, mint an NFT or do a swap. So, if we look at those 3 key impediments, Base and the Ethereum scaling roadmap, of layer 2s gives you cheap block space. Then in terms of the wallet experience, we spoke for a moment about interoperability, but would love to talk about that a little bit more. But, putting that aside for the moment, the wallet experience itself, we really believe in account abstraction as a future, right? And so like one of the key strategic principles we took is sort of like embrace and accelerate account abstraction. And one of the things that we're really excited about that we launched last year is the smart wallet, the Coinbase smart wallet. And so this is, a 4337 wallet that is a smart contract that allows you to have some of these really nice UX kind of features that my mom and my uncle can use just as easily as they use Coinbase, right? So instead of like, hey, remember my passkey and oh my God, this is scary, or sorry, remember my seed phrase and oh my God, this is scary. Instead, you have a passkey sign on. So, if you're familiar with Face ID, great, you can use this smart wallet. So wallet onboarding, wallet usage being a lot easier, was one of those key technical unlocks via the smart wallet. And then, like I said, interoperability. And that's kind of like, right now looks like hopefully it's the final boss. I'm probably have to eat my words when we find out there's something after that. But that's the one that if we make really good progress, I mean, optimistically, I would say we can have things in production on mainnet this coming year that solve the interoperability, solve the multi-chain problem. Then okay, those 3 final bosses of gas costs, wallet UX, and multi-chain we will have dealt with, and then we can proceed to onboard the world.
Yeah, people want to go deep on the Coinbase Smart Wallet. They can go back to Luke from Moonwell's episode all about this. Well, one thing I'm very curious, because I've seen some people talking online where they're like, has account abstraction failed? Because we still see most people are using EOAs being like guys like MetaMask and things of that nature. So talk to me a little bit. Is it just like me, the old crypto natives that are just holding on to their MetaMask? Or do we actually see like large scale adoption of these account abstraction technologies?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit of both, right? Like EOAs are not going anywhere, right? We're not going to have a world where like there are no funds held ever and no EOAs. That's why like 7702, EIP 7702 is very important. We're really excited about that. We're expecting after that goes live on ETH mainnet to have that available in the OP stack and as part of Base on day one. And if folks aren't familiar, that allows your EOA to be sort of controlled by your smart wallet. And so this is a way that both the EOA and smart wallet can coexist. You don't have to like migrate all of your EOAs away. That said, I would strongly argue that even if you take everybody even tangentially aware of crypto today, we're like really in the minority of the future volume and future, audience of folks that are going to come on chain eventually over the next, 5 to 10 years. How those folks come on chain, I think, we again believe strongly that it's going to be through really seamless UX that are provided by account abstracted smart wallets. But yeah, the nice thing is we don't have to choose. We don't have to like put all our eggs in one basket or the other. These two can exist together with 7702.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's get down into some of the technical details of Base itself, because we were talking about like gas fees were so outrageous on the main chain for a while. So talk to us a little bit about how you guys have lower transaction fees and really reduced confirmation times, like the work you guys have put in there.
Yeah, definitely. So the first huge set of these improvements you get essentially off the shelf, right, by building a rollup, right? And so you kind of amortize, thousands of transactions, actual gas cost, by just committing once to Ethereum for every, N thousand transactions that you actually have. And so just at its base, when we first deployed Base, I think gas prices for a swap transaction were in the like 30 to 50 cents range versus, 10 or 20 or even 100x that on mainnet. And block times 2 seconds instead of 12 seconds, right? And so your median time that you're going to wait is about a second to get your block confirmation. So since then, and starting last year, the biggest next unlock we saw was when 4844 launched and there was blob space on Ethereum. That radically reduced the cost of data availability for rollups on Ethereum. So when it first launched, we saw gas fees go from, again, like 30 cents around there per swap to like 1,000th of a cent, like really, really low cost. Then volume picked up, and then suddenly we had execution layer contention, and so gas fees started picking up and fluctuating. So since then, the team has taken on the sort of North Star goal to scale the actual block space capacity of Base. This is going from on the order of 2.5 or 3 million gas per second, or double that per block. So we call that mega gas, right? Today we're just at, I believe, 18 mega gas per second. So we've gone like 6x already. And we intend to go to a gigagas. So we intend to go, almost 50 to 60 times above this. That's how we're going to be able to onboard, 1 billion people while keeping the gas costs low enough, right? Our sort of internal goal is like, a transaction should cost less than a cent. So that's like a guardrail we have. And when we see activity increasing, we see gas costs going up, and sometimes they go up. I saw even someone was outraged the other week because gas costs on Base were so high. Yeah, it was like 30 cents again, right? But it's nice that like now we're in the world where like so high is like 30 cents and not like $70. In any case, when volume goes up, those gas costs increase. So we raise, the amount of activity we can fit in any given block. We raise the gas target, and that keeps fees low. There's a lot of great work that's been done in the ecosystem and in the community. We're not the only folks looking at this by far. A core principle for Base is to build in the open and build with the community. And, in a sense, like that's sort of how crypto, is like a core crypto ethos. And so I can't say, certainly not that like we're the only ones who are sort of like pushing the gas up. There's great teams out there who have similar goals, and which we've been working with, for instance, the Reth team. There's several others out there. In fact, early in the year, we held a scaling summit talking about how we're going to keep scaling the gas limit and what are the actual bottlenecks you're going to get, run up against. So there's a lot of work still to be done. And in fact, we're actually not sure when this will air, but in the next week, we're going to be publishing on our base engineering blog, which folks can find at base.dev/blog, sort of a layout of both our sort of scaling bottlenecks that we've identified so far, as well as some of our strategic kind of investments we're making to overcome those. And the key ones for us are execution speed and sort of database read-write access speeds. Those are the things that we see as coming up as like key blockers for scaling further.
And talk to us a little bit about this blog, because we talked with the Solana Foundation, must have been like a few weeks ago, and they talked about how all their guides were trying to get people onboarded in like 5 minutes. What's the value you guys see in like, showing these to the developer community and like really speaking to them?
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you asked this. So like I mentioned, one of our key values is that Base is built in the open. And there's a bunch of reasons for this. There's sort of like transparency we provide to users. There's, community engagement and community collaboration we can sort of kickstart by showing our work. And we also feel that we can attract some of the best, talent to come work with us if we show like, hey, here's the hard problems we're solving. So today we already have a Base blog, and folks can find that at base.org. And we've published technical pieces there before. So by no means is this a like, hey, we've been completely silent, for the past 2 years and suddenly we're going to talk. No, instead we just realized that some of the pieces we wanted to write are much more technical and much more sort of like deeply niche, in Ethereum scaling than the average person who's interested in Base might be, interested in reading about. So we decided, let's set up base.dev/blog where we can just really go deep and, get nerd sniped all we want about all the, really interesting problems that we encounter. And so the goal is to sort of share our work, engender some conversation and some collaboration in the community. And hopefully it's also a place that developers and users can come and sort of like, check our work, right? See that we're actually, making good on our promises to keep scaling and to work openly in the community.
Yeah, let's talk about making a thriving developer community, because it's all well and good. Like, we get the wallet abstraction. Now people can come on chain, but if there's like nothing worth doing on chain, like do people stay? Not really. So talk to us a little bit about like, show me the apps. Like, talk to us a little bit about how you guys are like promoting builders or like trying to get people to build really cool things on chain.
Yeah. So this is like the most important thing, right? Because if you have nothing there for people to do, like, I'm not going to tell my mom like, hey, come on chain. Like, oh, well, what can I do? Well, nothing yet, but it's going to be great, right? Like, no, we have to have the use cases for people. We have to have the utility. So, Base's goal is to create, a global on-chain economy and, eventually bring 1 billion users on chain. But first, you got to bring 1 million developers on chain. It was interesting to see the Electric Capital report that was released last week, where you see, okay, what's the lay of the land in terms of all crypto developer ecosystem. And that was revealing to us, and a few of those things we had noticed ourselves. One of the key ones they call out is that on-chain development, crypto development is much more global, and the trend is for this to be going much more global than it has been in the past. And that's been pretty clear to us, especially over the last maybe 6 months or so, as we've gone around the world. And in fact, there was just a pretty intense trip by several members of the Base team called Base Around the World. They went to 5 different countries, actually got on the ground, actually talked with builders over the course of several days to hear what are folks building, what problems do people have, how can Base help. So a core belief of ours is that, we need to be building global communities of builders. We can't just be sort of like here in the US primarily is where we're located. And we can't just be here and sort of, telekinesis some builder community out there. We actually have to be on the ground. And so we're going to continue this year in 2025, going around the world, meeting with builders, and also setting up Base hubs in places where we see a lot of development community emerging to support people. So that's the first one. An interesting, aspect of Base and sort of our strategic approach. So Base doesn't have a token. There's no plans for a Base token. That sort of changes the calculus for builders who are used to ecosystems having, a network token that, is used for proactive grants. Like, come build here, we'll give you a grant. We don't have that tool. What we do have is we have a combination of sort of on the ground, like I mentioned, sort of community efforts, building communities of builders who support each other. We kind of meme that Jesse put out recently, 2025 is the year that builders go viral. you can't go viral just if you from a large token grant. You go viral from people using your app, people talking about your app, sharing what they like about it and sharing that to their friends and family. And so it's a combination. We have that. We do also have, because we're part of the Optimism Collective, retroactive public goods funding through Optimism. So it's not the case that you have to completely forego, any type of token funding. It's just that we don't, use it in the same way a traditional, network grants show up. It's part of Optimism's retroactive analysis, but projects built on Base are eligible for that.
Absolutely. And one thing that's become really in vogue lately, and because I run a separate podcast all focused on on-chain AI, we've been talking about agents for a while, but it's come quite in vogue and it's been very popular on Base. Talk to us a little bit about like AI agents and where you kind of see them fitting into, Base.
Yeah. There's been a lot of this happening recently. There's been some really awesome tools on Base. If you've seen some of these things, like Clanker is a sort of autonomous token deployer running through a few different accounts. I think it started on Farcaster, but yeah, we see a lot of really awesome, nascent activity and energy around this. I mean, I think folks have hypothesized for a while, for years, I think that like, hey, if this AI thing is coming, well, how are agents going to, hold money or pay people? And like, oh, well, obviously it's going to be crypto. Now, how's it actually looking today? I don't think you've seen the emergence of kind of like Fiverr for agents, so to speak, right? Like this sort of hypothesized marketplace of like agents that can just go make their own living. But what you do see is these kind of like meme-based, kind of almost like AI as a community, right? Like project. And what tools do those communities need? Well, they definitely need wallets for their agents, but they also seem to largely center around, okay, we're going to have a community token or a meme token, right? And so like tools that help those communities sort of use those primitives of whether it's NFTs or tokens or wallets are things that we want to provide for developers on Base. So a lot of the work we do for this is through our on-chain kit. And there's also agent kit through Coinbase Developer Portal that we work very, very closely with. And that's basically giving developers who are interested in this space the tools to build what they need. And again, it's like pretty different, certainly from what I would have expected, a couple years ago, just in the abstract, like what tools might, the AIs need. And instead it's sort of reactive to like, okay, what are we actually seeing people build and use and what are their needs and talking to them. So yeah, it's been kind of like the confluence of autonomous, wallets and meme coin tools for community building and community kind of engagement.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion we'll see more agents on chain next year than we will see humans. So TBD if that actually comes to fruition. But we're AI maxis over here. That's so finally, I know you guys have to leave at the hour. So tell us about some upcoming milestones that people can look forward to on Base, and then finally where people can connect with you online.
Yeah. Actually, to be clear, I have like the other half hour. I had an hour total. So happy to take this one, but also if you want to go further, sure. Yeah, no problem. So yeah, what upcoming milestones should folks look forward to on Base? So we're going to continue sort of banging the scaling drum. And so that's in an effort to continue to make sure that, gas prices stay low, that applications stay eminently, usable for folks. As we, unlock key parts of that scaling, journey, we will be talking about that in the open. We will be sharing those so other folks can also, use the same things and can also benefit from this. We are also going to be in the next half reaching stage 1 of roll-up decentralization. So this is like a pretty important framework that Vitalik established, a couple years ago, with folks might be familiar with. But essentially, the two key pieces to reach stage 1 decentralization. One is fault proofs, which we launched just a couple months ago in October. That lets folks be able to permissionlessly withdraw from the Base bridge and also permissionlessly challenge any sort of faulty or erroneous withdrawal. That's super important. Key founding premise of crypto is that you should not have to trust anyone else to sort of be sovereign over your money, and now with the extension into Ethereum, over your data, over your apps, right? You are sovereign. And so fault proofs are a really essential part of that we're very happy to have out. The second part needed for stage 1 is that the upgrade of the network is mediated through a security council, not through a sort of unilateral party. So Base today doesn't actually have a unilateral way to upgrade. We collaborate with Optimism on a setup, but next year we're collaborating with Optimism on the roadmap to actually get a security council sort of stewarding the Base upgrade keys, which will give us the stage 1 designation. Also, that's the sort of like technical things that folks can expect, but I think you can also expect sort of like 10x in terms of the activity that we bring to communities on the ground, right? We're going to be global. We're going to be visiting people, showing up, having, sessions and hackathons and workshops, really trying to meet builders where they are. And so you can also expect a ton of that energy this year.
Yeah, I'm curious from the inside looking out, like Base has had really a successful run. Like you've seen so many layer 2s launch and not nearly the success of Base. From your own perspective, being inside, the organization, what do you attribute a lot of your guys' success to?
It's a good question. What does someone say? Like half of all success is luck and the other half is fate. I don't actually think all of it is like that, but I think a lot of it was sort of Jesse having a very strong conviction that this was the right path, right? And sort of at the time it sounded, like a weird science experiment, right? Like we're gonna have a roll up. Like why? There's already roll ups out there. Like what is this really gonna do? But being convinced that this was the way and that, we needed to be really present with builders and kind of, engender that community. I think pragmatically, it's also very, very helpful that we are part of Coinbase because we can work with teams at Coinbase to make sure Coinbase products work really, really well on Base. That's super important. That's an advantage we definitely know we have and definitely take advantage of. I would say, another thing I mentioned earlier, Base doesn't have a network token. And I think that that's actually sort of an impediment in a way, right? We don't just have this like very, standard path of like funding projects through network token grants. But what it forced us to do was say like, okay, if we don't have that, what else can we do? And get really good at the what else part, which is like community building, finding nascent builders and really supporting them, building engagement with our community. And I think that has served us really well, right? I think like you have fewer builders that come to Base in that kind of like, mercenary style, like, okay, I'm just going to go where the rewards are and then I'm going to go somewhere else, right? Instead, you have folks who sort of agree with the vision and, they feel that what Base is trying to do is also what they're trying to do is like build, to bring the world on chain. And that ends up having folks who stay and who like keep building. And I think like, a really interesting thing is usually if you're a dedicated, founder and you just really want to build something, it's usually not your first idea that, makes it, right? You usually need to try a few times, 2, 3, 4, half a dozen, maybe even a dozen before you hit the thing, right? And I think that because Base is a place that supports builders and that you're not sort of just chasing these like token grants, but instead you're with a community, you feel supported, you feel like-minded, you stay for your second project. And you stay for your third project. And then eventually some of these projects, end up finding product market fit. I think Clanker, as we referenced before, is a great example of that. It's not that team's first project, but it's the one that sort of hit, and they stayed building on Base.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to ask you for 2 recommendations. The first is, let's imagine you're crypto native and you haven't really played around much on Base, or like, where do you recommend they go on chain? Like, what do you think is interesting? Is it Farcaster? Is it Clanker?
Yeah. Definitely try those. Those are very easy to try, and you should definitely be on Farcaster if you're interested at all in Base or really anything that's happening in the crypto ecosystem. I would actually say, I would recommend folks try out things that are like not the typical crypto experience, right? That are not the things that we've done for the past, 4 or 5 years. Like, so what I'll recommend actually is an app called MoshiCam. So this is a social app that uses account abstraction to completely do away with any of the gnarly UX of crypto. Gas fees are abstracted via paymasters, and you mint, or they don't even call it minting. That's a too crypto term. You collect and share photos. And so I think that's a really great example of the type of app. So I believe they're in the App Store today. They also have a PWA. You can check out MoshiCam, MOSHICAM. That's a great example of the type of app that I think will reach, breakout potential, right? With folks who do not care about crypto, who like, in fact, may dislike the terms and the association with crypto. they don't even have to know that it's like really, crypto under the hood. It's just a nice app, that has some benefits like, oh, I can earn money on my posts without anyone giving me permission for that, right? Without anyone coming and being able to take that away. So, I recommend folks check that out again, because I think that's the type of app that, that's the sort of like new paradigm that is finally possible with some of these key unlocks that we should hopefully see more and more of.
And the second recommendation is, because we have a lot of builders that listen to the podcast, we're always looking for startup ideas. Is there an area in the base ecosystem or otherwise where you're like, you know what, I feel like people haven't addressed this, or you know what, I feel like this is such a good opportunity?
Yeah. I mean, this is, I'll really sort of be sounding like too lame. Come work with us on like scaling, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't mean come join Base, although we are hiring, you can check that out at base.org/jobs. No, I just mean if these are the types of problems, they are definitely unsolved, like we are not sitting here with like, yeah, we solved all the problems. Let's just like bring on the app. There are very hard, very interesting, very compelling technical problems that still are there. I think interoperability is one of them. I think like we have these emerging standards. OP interop is a good one that we'll see later in 2025. There's also sort of chain and stack agnostic protocols that we're trying to align people on. RIP 7755, 7683. I always forget the four letters of EIPs, but four numbers rather. In any case, I think, solving interop is not just something that can happen at the protocol layer. It also has to happen at the wallet layer, at the app layer. So if you're an app dev, if you're a wallet dev, like anywhere in the stack, you can help solve this problem. And I think it's going to be, again, like the final boss, the Hydra that we have to like finally slay to really create compelling user experiences to bring the world on chain.
Yeah, I guess to put it into perspective for people, we all have Polymer, which is interoperability. We had Particle recently. We just had Omni. So interoperability.
You're thinking about it.
People are thinking about it.
Yes. I think that's great. And, again, we'd love to meet and collaborate with anybody who's interested in that stuff.
Absolutely. So in that vein, where can people find you online? Where can people learn more about Base?
Yep. Definitely. So both Twitter, Farcaster, GitHub, I'm at Aflock, AFLOCK. You can come find me in almost all of the Base team. I'm in the Discord. You can find me at the Base Builder Fridays now and then. And on the ground, we go to most conferences, and you can find me at the Base booth. Also, if folks are interested in working with us, please check out base.org/jobs and see if there's something there. But yeah, I would love to chat and collaborate with anybody.
Absolutely. Well, until the next episode, let's continue building the future of on-chain.